What if the real pride of ancient China wasn't something people said, it was something they built, at national scale, without modern machines, meant to outlast time? These weren't just landmarks, they were proof that a civilization could organize power, preserve culture, and make belief permanent. In the Forbidden City, the legend of 9,999 rooms wasn't just a number, it was a message. Imperial authority was designed to feel vast, ordered, and untouchable. In Phoenix's ancient city, pride shows up when the town lights up during festivals. Lanterns, music, and river performances turning tradition into something living, not archived. At the Longmen Grottos, faith and state power meet in stone, generations carving thousands of figures and monumental Buddhas directly into the cliff until devotion becomes a permanent public statement. How did builders reach this scale without modern tools and keep it precise enough to endure? And why do these places still make us slow down and feel respect, as if a civilization's pride is still present in the air? Stay with this journey and we'll break down the ambition, the method, and the cost behind these builds, so you understand why they help shape a civilization, not just decorate history. The Forbidden City was engineered as a palace city and working center of imperial rule, where architecture itself delivers authority through controlled approach, entry, and ceremony. Ordered under the Yongle Emperor, construction began in 1406 and lasted 14 years, achieving pre-industrial precision at a scale meant to outlast generations. Records and later accounts describe the effort as the work of up to 1 million laborers alongside more than 100,000 skilled artisans. An empire-sized workforce coordinated like a national project, not a single palace. To make that possible in its time, materials had to be mobilized across long distances, and research on historical transport methods describes heavy stones moved on sledges over ice paths, with water used to reduce friction in winter. That logistical discipline is mirrored in the plan, a strict north-south axis and a deliberate sequence of gates and courtyards that converts movement into protocol and visibility into hierarchy. Under the painted surfaces sits a repairable logic, modular timber framing and bracketed joints, so damaged pieces can be replaced while the larger geometry and the message it carries remains intact. The grandeur, however, came with a cost that did not end at completion. Constant maintenance, recurring material replacement, and controlled access to keep permanence believable rather than merely remembered. What it ultimately achieved is the kind of pride a civilization earns through capability, proof that power, labor, craft, and ritual could be organized into a structure built to endure. Huangshan Valley is a purpose-built cliff and river resort town in Shangrao, Jiangxi, designed as a single, walkable system rather than one standalone landmark. What makes it a construction story is its origin. Local reporting describes it as a former mining site that was shut down and then rebuilt through large-scale ecological repair and replanning. Instead of smoothing the valley into something generic, cleaners leaned into the canyon terrain and rebuilt the visitor route as stacked layers. Waterfront circulation below, bridges and terraces through the middle, and cliffside buildings above. That choice turns the cliffs from a scar into the project's front wall, so the landscape itself becomes part of the architecture people come to see. At night, it is widely framed online as a real-life Xianxia world, a Chinese fantasy genre of sword and immortal folklore, and some coverage describes the effect as a heavenly palace brought down into the valley. The draw is not small. China Daily reports that in 2024, the scenic area received 3.1 million tourists, including over 150,000 from overseas. The same reporting line also ties that foot traffic to real output, with annual tourism revenue cited at 528 million yuan. As an achievement, the project demonstrates capability more than age, coordinating shutdown, restoration, construction, and operations to convert an exhausted industrial landscape into a controlled public environment. But the spectacle has an ongoing price. Slope stability, water management, lighting infrastructure, and crowd control all have to be maintained continuously for the illusion to remain believable. In the end, its pride reads as modern-scale organization, proof that a valley can be remade by planning, money, and relentless maintenance, then kept alive by the same discipline every season. Longmen Grottos in Henan, just south of Luoyang, are carved into limestone cliffs where the Yi River passes between two hills like a natural stone gateway. The World Heritage listing frames the site as a peak achievement of Buddhist stone carving from the late Northern Wei through the Tang, shaped by imperial patronage over generations. Published counts describe over 2,000 caves and niches holding more than 100,000 carved figures along the river trails, turning a narrow gorge into a continuous sanctuary wall. And because donors left thousands of inscriptions and stelae, the cliffs preserve a running record of names, vows, and political status right beside the sacred imagery. That record matters because it shows method. The work was organized commission by commission, letting different workshops carve distinct styles while still building one unified public statement. The most iconic ensemble is Fengshan Temple, where the central Vairocana Buddha rises about 56 feet tall, framed by attendants that make the cliff feel staged like a court. Reaching that scale without modern tools meant scaffolds, chisels, and carefully planned stone removal, with every decision locked into exposed rock the moment it was cut. Seen from the river path, the grottos read as infrastructure for belief, faith made public, and state resources disciplined into a single, legible landscape of devotion. Longmen's pride is therefore both measurable and immediate. Artistry, organization, and ideology fused into stone in a way that still commands attention centuries later. The Great Wall north of Beijing is not one monument but a frontier system, ramparts tied to passes and watchtowers, built to make approach routes predictable and controllable. Around the capital, the best-known surviving stretches are largely Ming-era works, rebuilt stronger in brick and stone after repeated northern pressure made earlier defenses feel insufficient. A comprehensive mapping survey completed in 2012 put the remaining Great Wall-related sites at about 13,171 miles, which makes the ambition plain. This was national-scale construction, not a local barrier. That ambition only mattered because the wall behaved like a network, with beacon towers and stations set up to push warnings by smoke in daylight and fire at night, ridge to ridge. With signals moving, the physical wall could do its job, slowing, channeling, and exposing movement, while the passes and towers concentrated defense where terrain forced everyone through. In early imperial campaigns, the workforce is described as hundreds of thousands, and some accounts place peak mobilization near 1 million, which helps explain how fast sections could be raised across brutal ground. That workforce was a mix of soldiers and coerced labor, and the conditions were punishing. Long supply lines, extreme weather, heavy materials, and constant pressure to build and move on. Because no reliable death tally survives, the human cost is usually carried in tradition instead. A widely repeated claim puts deaths at as many as 400,000, used to reflect how lethal exposure, disease, and accidents could be. So the pride and the price sit in the same frame. an engineered border machine measured in miles of stone, and in lives spent to make authority permanent on the landscape. Phoenix ancient city, often called Fenhuang, is a valley town on the Tuojiang River where the built layout treats the waterfront as the main public corridor, not background scenery. UNESCO's tentative listing describes it as a place valued for town construction planning, with the old town tied to a wider historical defense system. That planning becomes obvious in the way the settlement hugs the river and stays compact, so movement keeps returning to one central spine instead of scattering into the hills. Many sources date its establishment to 1704, and that frontier-era origin helps explain why the old quarter feels organized for flow and visibility, not just atmosphere. Once the river is the spine, the bank has to work like infrastructure, which is why the town is known for Jiao Jiao Lu stilt houses built to handle floods and limited flat land. Those repeating timber frames create a continuous edge of balconies and landings, so the Riverwalk reads as one connected promenade rather than isolated viewpoints. With that promenade in place, daily life stays outward-facing. Many stilt houses are described as still inhabited or adapted into guest houses, so tradition remains visible in ordinary routines. At night, the same corridor is reread through light and reflection, and the river effectively doubles the town into a second, moving streetscape. Official coverage also documents large, repeatable cultural staging on the waterline, including a water wedding performance with named characters staged on the river itself. And when provincial reporting says the site received more than 17.23 million tourist trips from January through September, generating 16.4 billion CNY, it underlines the core achievement, a river town system built to carry tradition at crowd scale, not just preserve it in place. The Temple of Heaven in Beijing was built as national-scale ritual infrastructure, where imperial power was made visible through a system of space, movement, and ceremony, not words. City guidance notes it served Ming and Qing rulers as the site to offer sacrifice to heaven and pray for bumper harvests, which is why the entire compound reads like a planned procession rather than a casual park. Completed in 1420, the core layout was fixed to support repeatable state rites on a strict axis, turning belief into something you could walk through and measure with your steps. That axis moves from the circular mound altar under open sky, past the imperial vault of heaven, and onward to the hall of prayer for good harvest, tightening focus as the ritual advances. The plan itself carries doctrine. The northern precinct is semicircular, while the southern is square, reflecting the old idea that heaven is round and earth is square. Its vast footprint locks the message in place, with a double wall enclosing about 675 acres and concentrating the ceremonial buildings inside the inner precinct. Inside the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest, reference descriptions emphasize a fully wooden structure assembled without nails. Precision joinery doing the work modern fasteners would do today. Even sound is treated as part of the build, since official visitor notes describe the echo wall around the imperial vault of heaven as a surface that can carry a whisper across the courtyard. Put together, the achievement is pride through coordination. Geometry, materials, and controlled procession routes engineered to make a civilization's authority feel vast, ordered, and enduring. Huahuang Palace on Zhonghuang Mountain in Xi County, Handan, is built as a cliffside sanctuary where the rock face itself becomes part of the architecture. Official attraction listings present it as the largest ancient architectural complex dedicated to Nuwa, tying the site to the creation and sky-mending legend at the center of early Chinese myth. The complex is organized in groups of halls, but the visual anchor is Huahuang Pavilion, set directly against a sheer wall so the cliff functions like its missing back support. Site descriptions put the pavilion at about 75 feet tall, and note it is bound to the cliff with 8 iron chains, an explicit solution for building where foundations cannot spread. Because the structure is effectively suspended on a narrow ledge, every tier has to transfer load back into stone, turning carpentry and masonry into a controlled balancing act. That engineering choice creates a rare, physical proof visitors can feel. Local descriptions say the pavilion can subtly tremble when it is crowded, which is why it is nicknamed a hanging temple or living building. On the surrounding cliff, visitor guides also highlight Northern Qi-era Buddhist scripture engravings, totaling more than 137,000 words, so the mountain reads like an archive as much as a shrine. Taken together, the pride here is method made visible, myth given a permanent address, and a vertical cliff turned into usable public architecture. Yellow Crane Tower Park crowns Snake Hill above the Yangtze River in Wuhan, where a single tower is treated as a civic landmark you climb into. Early accounts place a watchtower here in the Three Kingdoms era, tied to Sun Quan's forces, because the river corridor made surveillance and signaling practical. That military logic later faded, and the hilltop became a place people came to look outward, turning strategy into scenery and a public vantage point. Fires and warfare repeatedly erased earlier versions, so the real story is not one build, but the determination to rebuild the same symbol again and again. The current tower rose between 1981 and 1985, continuing that tradition of renewal while shifting the structure to a nearby position on Snake Hill. Its modern rebuild uses a reinforced concrete frame that imitates timber construction, so it can carry heavy visitor loads while keeping a traditional silhouette. At about 169 feet tall, the height restores the hill's original advantage, a clean overlook of the river line that shaped Wuhan's geography and movement. The tower's cultural weight is also literary, since a famous Tang Dynasty poem by Cui Hao helped fix this place in memory as shorthand for distance, home, and time. Put together, the achievement is pride by continuity, geography, rebuilding, and culture fused into a working landmark that keeps renewing its meaning for each generation. In Yongding, Fujian, the Tulo tradition turns isolated mountain living into a single organized compound, part home, part fortification, designed to keep a whole community together under one roof. Heritage descriptions note that many Tulo use circular or square plans, and some were built large enough to house up to 800 people inside one enclosed structure. That inward-facing plan keeps the exterior simple and defensive, while the interior opens into a shared courtyard where daily routines, circulation, and community order stay visible and coordinated. The real achievement is the building method. A stone base supports thick, rammed earth walls, formed by compacted layers and reinforced with readily available materials such as bamboo and wood. Those walls can reach up to 6 feet thick, creating a load-bearing ring that trades time and labor for stability, insulation, and long-term durability. With that ring in place, families can be stacked by level around the courtyard, and shared functions, ancestral halls, storage, and sometimes wells, fit inside the same protected footprint. Defense is engineered into the details, with a single main gate built for resistance and upper-level openings used as gun ports, while the courtyard remains the safe center of the system. Taken together, Yongding's pride is practical genius. Raw earth and simple materials disciplined into a repeatable architecture that could shelter a community, preserve its structure, and endure for generations. The Pavilion of Prince Tang stands on the east bank of the Gan River in Nanchang, where the waterfront has long served as the city's public edge and ceremonial viewpoint. Records trace the first pavilion to 653, commissioned by Li Yuanying, Prince Tang, so a river lookout could also function as a marker of authority and refinement. From the beginning, the idea was larger than a single building, because a river pavilion is a civic instrument. It frames the city, hosts gatherings, and turns landscape into shared identity. Its fame was sealed when Wang Bo's preface to the Pavilion of Prince Tang attached the site to a literary memory strong enough to outlast timber and fire. Historical accounts note the structure was repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt across dynasties, which is why the pavilion is remembered as a tradition continually renewed, not a one-time construction. The modern pavilion continues that continuity in a form meant for public use, keeping the riverfront role intact even as the city around it modernized. What visitors engage with today is therefore not only architecture, but a cultural platform, an elevated place for viewing, ceremony, and staged presentations that keep the pavilion idea active. Taken together, the pride here is continuity made visible, a river landmark that keeps turning history, scenery, and culture into a single, repeatable public experience for each generation. Yungang grottos are carved into cliffs west of Datong in northern Shanxi, where the rock face becomes a continuous wall of sanctuaries rather than a single temple. The carving began in the mid-5th century under the Northern Wei, when the court backed monumental Buddhist art to project legitimacy and order on a frontier capital. What survives is vast, more than 50,000 statues and reliefs arranged through caves, niches, and layered surfaces, turning devotion into a public landscape. The program is not random because the caves read like a planned sequence, large icons set for impact, then smaller figures in narrative panels filling the stone with disciplined repetition. Art historical descriptions also emphasize cultural synthesis, as outside influences visible in early motifs are absorbed and reorganized into a distinctly Chinese visual language. By design, the site makes faith and state capacity inseparable because it required coordinated labor, consistent iconography, and long-term planning to transform one cliff into a durable public statement. Zhongshan Scenic Area, Purple Mountain, in Nanjing is a single mountain landscape that functions like a public archive, where nature is used to hold the city's most enduring symbols of memory. Official park materials presented as a connected set of major sites spread across the same slopes, so visitors move through history by following the mountain's roads, paths, and ceremonial approaches. One layer is imperial and foundational, because the Ming-era tomb landscape on this mountain is tied to the dynasty's first emperor and the idea that power should be anchored in place. Another layer is spiritual and civic, where temple grounds and memorial spaces sit inside the forested terrain, so belief, remembrance, and everyday walking routes share the same geography. Then the story shifts forward into modern nationhood, because the mountain also holds key Republic-era landmarks that turn political identity into a place people can physically visit and climb toward. What connects these eras is planning, not accident. The mountain concentrates them into a single, legible circuit, so the city's past is experienced as a continuous sequence rather than scattered destinations. That is why the area reads less like one attraction and more like a managed cultural landscape. Wooded ridgelines, broad viewpoints, and public plazas designed to handle crowds without breaking the calm. In the end, Zhongshan's distinction is simple and rare. One mountain carrying multiple centuries of authority, belief, and national memory, held together by walkable geography. Behind a complete ring of walls in central Honest Hiao preserves the feeling of a working, walled town, with streets and courtyards still arranged for everyday life inside a defined boundary. Heritage descriptions treat it as an exceptionally well-preserved traditional Han Chinese city, founded in the 14th century, and that long continuity is what gives the place its authority. The wall itself is part of the story. It runs for about 4 miles, creating a clear inside where civic order, trade, and community routines were meant to be contained and protected. Within that enclosure, the urban fabric reads as disciplined planning, main streets that carry movement and commerce, with smaller lanes feeding into quieter residential blocks. Pingyao's pride is also economic because historical records describe it as a major national center for banking in the 19th and early 20th centuries, leaving behind imposing financial buildings as proof. That finance mattered for a practical reason. Draft banking let merchants move value across distance without physically transporting silver, so the town's institutions became tools of national trade. Because money and governance both needed trust, the old city carries a public, procedural atmosphere. Formal compounds, merchant storefronts, and courtyards built to signal stability and rules. Culture sits on top of that structure rather than replacing it, which is why the place can shift from quiet lanes by day to lantern-lit streets by night without losing its sense of order. What endures is a simple statement of capability, a city designed to organize defense, commerce, and community in one compact form, still readable centuries after its peak. Qingcheng Mountain sits on the edge of the Chengdu Plain, where flat farmland gives way to layered green foothills, and the landscape starts feeling quieter and more inward. Because the terrain rises in soft steps instead of one harsh peak, the mountain reads as a long, sheltered corridor of forest, streams, and shaded paths rather than a single dramatic summit. That natural enclosure is exactly why the mountain became closely tied to Taoist tradition, since the setting supports retreat, reflection, and a slower rhythm of practice. Over time, temples and small sacred stops settled into the folds of the mountain, not as one dominating monument, but as a dispersed network that matches the terrain's restrained character. The result is a cultural landscape where belief is experienced through movement, walking, pausing, listening, so the environment itself acts like the structure holding the tradition together. Local memory often treats the mountain as a place where teachings were passed down quietly, which is why the atmosphere matters as much as any individual building. Even for visitors today, the draw is continuity, the sense that the mountain has been shaped by long use, with paths and viewpoints guiding people through the same calm pattern, generation after generation. In the broader Sichuan context, it also sits near one of the region's most important water management landscapes, which reinforces the idea that culture and practical mastery grew side by side here. So the pride here is not about spectacle, but about endurance. How a landscape can hold a tradition steady by giving it a place that naturally fits its values. By the time the descent begins, what remains is a simple impression of balance. Geography, custom, and memory blended into one walkable, living setting. The Grand Buddha at Lingshan rises near Wuqi on the north shore of Lake Tai, where low mountains and open water frame a landmark meant to be seen from far out. It sits within the Lingshan scenic area, positioned as a modern sacred destination that turns Buddhist devotion into a public place people can enter and move through. The figure reaches about 289 feet in total height, so its first message is scale, belief expressed through a build that refuses to be modest. The statue was completed in 1996, which makes it a deliberate late 20th century statement about heritage continuing forward, not only surviving behind museum glass. From the base upward, the approach is designed to slow people down, shifting the mood from quick sightseeing into a more ceremonial rhythm of steps, pauses, and viewpoints. Around it, the broader complex adds religious and cultural spaces that keep the site active, so the experience becomes a whole setting for gathering rather than a single photo stop. Placed against the mountain backdrop and tied to the lake landscape, the statue reads as part of Jiangsu's geography, not an object dropped onto it. The pride here is straightforward and modern, a monumental project that keeps a long tradition visible, accessible, and shared in public space. Tiananmen Square sits at the political heart of Beijing, opening directly in front of the Forbidden City's main gate, so the city's central axis becomes a public stage. It was expanded and paved over in 1958, creating a broad, deliberately empty field of 100 acres, and is engineered for mass ceremonies. That scale is not just visual, it is operational, with numbered paving stones laid to help organize large formations and parades with precision. The square is framed like a set, Tiananmen to the north, Qianmen to the south, and on the sides a cluster of national buildings that turn the open space into a formal civic room. At its center and edges stand the monument to the people's heroes, the Great Hall of the People, the National Museum of China, and the Mao Zedong Memorial Hall, each one reinforcing that the square is meant to hold collective memory in public view. The daily flag ceremonies at sunrise and sunset keep that purpose active, so the place continues to function as built proof of how power and identity can be organized through space. In the center of Xi'an, the bell tower and drum tower stand like matched anchors, turning a busy crossroads into a ceremonial center point the whole old city can read. Historic records place the bell tower's construction in 1384, when timekeeping was treated as civic infrastructure, one sound schedule for an entire walled city. A documented plaque tradition notes the bell tower was physically relocated in 1582 as the city's effective center shifted, which shows how seriously officials took symbolic alignment in urban order. Across the same core district, the drum tower complemented that system, working with the bell tower to mark the daily cycle. Bells for morning, drums for evening, so public life moved on a shared rhythm. Because that rhythm mattered for markets, gates, and public routines, the towers were never just decoration. They were tools that coordinated people who would never see each other across the city. Their placement also ties into neighborhood identity, with the Drum Tower standing at the edge of Xi'an's historic Muslim quarter, where street life and food lanes keep the old center loud and active. Today, the climb and the open viewing levels turn the same structures into public memory, where visitors look out over the same street grid the towers were built to regulate. What endures as pride is capability made visible. A city confident enough to build time, order, and shared routine into two landmarks that still command the center centuries later. Zhouzhuang sits on the Taihu Lake Plain in the Yangtze River Delta, a low-lying place where densely interwoven waterways shape the town's layout in daily rhythm. Historic accounts trace the town's lasting name to the Northern Song era, rooted in a donation and community rebuilding dated to 1086, which helps explain why water and settlement are treated as one system here. Because the ground is flat and wet, canals function like streets, and the town's pride shows up in practical order. How homes, lanes, and small crossings are positioned to keep movement continuous. Stone bridges become the visible grammar of that order, and the twin bridges are widely treated as the town's emblem because they capture how circulation is solved in a water-first landscape. Over more than 900 years, that water-town pattern has carried local customs in public view. Boats, riverside markets, and everyday life staged along the same corridors people still follow. As daylight fades, lantern light and reflections turn the canals into a second layer of scenery, so the town feels doubled. Architecture above, moving light below. What endures as pride is not a single monument, but a civilizational skill, settling and organizing life on water in a way that stays readable, walkable, and culturally alive. Mount Putuo is an island setting off Zhoushan, where the sea, the slopes, and the temple paths combine into a single sacred landscape rather than one isolated shrine. It is widely regarded as the Bodhimanda of Guanyin in Chinese Buddhism, which is why the place has long drawn pilgrims as much as tourists. Because the site is an island, arrival itself is part of the ritual pattern, crossing water, then moving upward through forested lanes and courtyards that keep the pace deliberate. The best-known temples, Puji Temple, Fayu Temple, and Huiji Temple, are presented as the main anchors, set at different levels so the landscape stages belief as a gradual ascent. Records and visitor materials describe Buddhist activity here dating back to the Tang period, giving the site the weight of long continuity rather than a modern invention. Beyond temples, the island is also known for coastal rock and sea caves, where natural features are folded into devotion as places for viewing and quiet. At the shoreline, the South Sea Guanyin statue is often cited as a modern landmark that extends the island's religious identity into an unmistakable public symbol. In peak seasons, the island's rhythm becomes a moving procession of incense, bells, and foot traffic, showing how tradition can operate at crowd scale without losing its tone. What remains most distinctive is the balance, an ocean-bound place where geography, faith, and cultural memory reinforce each other, and the journey feels like part of the meaning. Ancient villages in southern Anhui refers to Shidi and Hongkun in Yi County near Huangshan, where two rural settlements preserve their older form instead of being remade into modern streets. The World Heritage listing emphasizes street plans, architecture, decoration, and the way houses are integrated with comprehensive water systems, treating that combination as the site's signature. Because water is built into daily circulation, canals and pools function like infrastructure, guiding movement, supporting household routines, and keeping the villages legible as complete living layouts. The same record frames these places as products of a prosperous trading economy with family and clan-based social organization, shaped by successful officials or merchants returning home and investing in their communities. That prosperity shows up in a restrained but highly finished architectural language, plain, elegant colors, careful craftsmanship, and decorative detail used to signal order without relying on spectacle. Geography then explains the planning differences. Sidi is described as surrounded by mountains and threaded by streams, while Hongkun is set by a stream that forms named pools, including the central Moon Pond. Culturally, the villages are presented as places where rules and ritual mattered, with a patriarchal clan structure and folk customs shaped by Confucian and Neo-Confucian ideas about lineage, learning, and conduct. What makes them feel unusually complete is the atmosphere created by rhythmic, space and tranquil alleyways, where settlement, landscape, and water are arranged to read as harmony rather than congestion. The pride here is everyday civilization made durable. Trade, family structure, and environmental design fused into villages that still show how order was built into ordinary life.